Hello everyone, welcome to analysis number 5, featuring a game between Bruised by God and Emotional, also known as BBG and MOE. In a game they played in the Fight Night Losers Bracket Finals. It was actually a week and a half ago. I procrastinated on doing this game because I actually wasn't sure which game from the series I wanted to do and what I would offer as analysis value and educational. So now I found this particular game where there was a moment, and I will ask you to pause the video if you want, to actually look at what you would do. It is a very simple decision, not in the case that it was obvious why it's the best play, but it's a very, there's not that many options, and it's good practice to take the correct line. And Mo took what I consider the suboptimal line, and I'll explain why, and then I'll give the fundamental reasons where you should apply this as good practice in the future. But I'm going to go very in depth on why it was better, so that you believe me essentially and take this as good practice, and then in the future maybe you'll intuitively see it as the correct line simply because you learned it today through the much more roundabout explanation. So the first three turns are very straightforward. We're of course focusing on Mo's perspective, partly because BBG played nearly perfectly, and also because there's very little to analyze from his perspective. So here, as it is this round right here, where I'm going to suggest you pause the video and think about what you would play in this position. All right, now I'll show you what Mo did. He axes the spiderling and uses it on vision so that Egghead Researcher does not have any favorable blocks. And this allows us to deal 7 face damage. Now I'm going to propose the alternative move where we axe on the Flame Chompers, pull the Egghead Researcher, and put the axe, well, of course on Draven, simply because it might lead to Draven leveling. It most likely will not, but there's no actual benefit to putting it on any other unit instead. But the key is that we discard Flame Chompers instead of Vision, and I do have multiple reasons for this. And first I'll list out the simple reasons that you should use as a metric for deciding whether or not you should do it as in terms of good practice. A, there's only a few units on the board. This means that Vision is only going to give it to 3 units. Vision is a very valuable card in this deck, and it gets better because this deck focuses on going wide very efficiently. So Vision gets better. Flame Chompers doesn't get better. This is because if we were to play Flame or discard Flame Chompers later, for example, we pull, say, a large unit. If we play it now, it pulls the Egghead Researcher and survives and still pulls the large unit in the future. So the Flame Chompers does not get better. And C, we get the same amount of damage. For example, if we pull with the Flame Chompers, we'll hit them in the face for 3 damage with Draven, 3 damage from the spiders, and plus 1 damage from the axe. That is still 7 damage. So now it's the same amount of damage. And the one last reason is that we preserve our board. We go wide. The thing is, it is very difficult for our opponent to keep up with us in terms of creating blockers to match our attackers. So we get to create more units to attack with. And of course, you might say it's only plus 1 unit and we kill 1 blocker, but the thing is it's actually plus 2 units and they get 1 blocker because our spiderling survives. So they get plus 1 unit, we get plus 2 units. So the other thing is that since we're going to have 4 units, presumably still going to have 4, maybe 5, for round 4, is that we'll be able to attack after making only 1 slow action, denying our opponent the possibility of playing 2 blockers before we attack, which that is a possibility. It's not really our priority, but the key is that those are the first 4 reasons I listed are the ones you should focus on, and that defines good practice. And now, if we move away from whether or not it's good practice, I will focus on the consequences of this decision throughout the course of the game in this analysis. So we move forward, and actually when I say throughout the course of this game, realistically it's only on round 5, because after that it becomes very downhill. So now we play Jinx, and as a word of advice, if we didn't play Jinx, for example, and there was another unit that was 3 mana and has 4 attack, and like if we played a Sump Dredgers instead of Jinx, the survival skills, I think it goes left to right, but if they pull the Sump Dredgers, for example, the survival skills might go to Draven, so be careful. In this case, it's safe, and it's guaranteed to go on Jinx, because while Jinx and Draven have the same stats, Jinx costs 1 more mana, and therefore it prioritizes Jinx. Overall, this is a very powerful play, almost disgusting, I might say, because this is 0 mana to save the Jinx, deny 4 lifesteal, and also kill their blocker. So now here's the thing. So if we look at this position and imagine we took the other line, our opponent would have a Egghead Researcher. We would have 5 units on the board. We would have all of this, plus the Spiderling, plus the Flame Chompers. And what we could do is that we could simply play the Arena Battlecaster. Our opponent gets to play at most 1 blocker. Depending on what it is, we either pull the Egghead Researcher or their new unit with our Flame Chompers, and we hit them in the face for 4. We can play Vision after they declare blockers, and it becomes a very devastating attack. We would be able to set that up at only the cost of allowing them to have Egghead Researcher still on the board. Now, the only actual answer they could possibly have is actually Solari Sunforger plus single combat. They've already played 1 Sunforger, and they've also kept 3 cards in Mulligan. So we know that the probability they draw single combat is much lower, because if you had single combat in your Mulligan phase, you would never keep it. And the fact that he didn't ship cards tells us that he basically had 3 cards that were guaranteed to not be single combat, so which gives him less chances to draw. And I used the hypergeometric calculator. The probability is about 37%. That does not even include the probability he has the second Solari Sunforger. So overall, I want to make clear that it is very low probability for them to have Solari Sunforger single combat, and given this line, we almost instantly win against everything except Sunforger plus single combat. So that would put us probably around 75% chance to win, maybe higher. And again, if they have, anything else, that would be better. And if they do have Sunforger plus single combat, even if we take this line, Sunforger plus single combat will still be incredibly powerful whether they play this round or a future round. So it's important to realize that if they had it, it's not even like we made a misplay or we're getting punished. They had a really strong draw. That's what it comes down to. So now if we look at the consequences here, we're not going to win this game. Of course, BBG played very well, had some very strong options. Just having the second Sunforger alone is already very, very strong to stabilize in the upcoming turns. Here, BBG actually plays very, very accurately, not going for the Sunforger, going for this Spacey Sketcher, selecting the Serpent instead of the Crescent Strike to trade down 2 units instead of stunning them, because he's going to be able to start clearing them off very quickly. Mo has almost no cards. BBG played this very, very accurately. Those are some good practices right there. Crescent Strike in this position would be a mistake. I don't think it would make him lose, but it would definitely be a mistake and make it much more difficult for BBG to stabilize the game. I'm not really going to analyze much else. I just hope that I was able to convince you that it was good practice, and in the future maybe you'll intuitively make that decision rather than even have to calculate these lines. All I did was provide this so that as proof that it was the correct play. If you didn't believe me. And also reasoning. So we're going to speed through the rest of the game, simply because there's not much left. It is completely hopeless, and BBG plays it correctly and very accurately. I will, of course, link the Giant Slayer Twitch, where they stream Fight Night every Friday night, and also morning, for me, where they stream it on EU's Fight Night, which is in EU's night, I think, and also the streams for BBG. I mean, I shouldn't need to do that because if you know me, you should definitely know BBG, but I'll link it anyway. And MOE, which I actually didn't know before this tournament, but that's only because I haven't been. I was on break between summer and winter. I barely played during the fall, so that's the only reason. And again, I will remind everyone that these players are better than me at these decks, maybe even better than me at probably most other decks, but there's a difference between playing the game and analysis. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on the next video. If you guys liked it, please drop a comment. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any suggested games, leave a link in the description as well as, in the comments, as well as a timestamp if it's a Twitch VOD, preferably if it a YouTube or Twitch link. Everything else I'll probably ignore. Thank you guys for watching.